What is going on, everybody? Update 9 for Hell Let Loose has landed, and with the new update comes some changes to the meta. So I thought it was important to make a short video on this. That way, if you're new or just kind of curious in general about the changes made, that way we can get you all set, ready to hop in those front lines and know what's going on. So the Update 9 meta is pretty similar to the Update 8 with just a few extra complications, few extra steps. It still revolves around garrisons. It still revolves around nodes. They are both still very crucial to consistently winning games in Hell Let Loose. And with Update 9, we have all these new tools to help us do this. But it can really be broken down into three things, which is the supply truck rush right at the start of the game, building node farms, and forward garrisons. The supply truck rush at the start of the game is very similar to the same thing as in Update 8, except now there's a warm-up period in warfare mode like there was in offensive mode. And what this means is you cannot go past that second column until the warm-up timer counts down. So it is no longer the faster you load in, the faster you can get the truck up to the front. Everybody's got an equal fighting chance. But there is one advantage to this, and that is that the commander can spawn in a second supply truck in this warm-up period. Now you can have the usual supply truck heading straight for that mid capture point and getting those offensive garrisons down, while you can have another supply truck pushing up another direction. And this can be useful for building flanking garrisons and nodes and whatnot, but we'll talk more about that second truck in a little bit here. The bottom line is the supply truck rush at the start is still just as important as ever. You want that midpoint. This is your winning point. This is where nodes are worth more. So speaking of nodes, just as important as ever, but now they're gonna have to be built differently. It used to be you just find a good little hiding place in the plus 10, plus 15, build them, stash them, and you're good for the game. That is no longer the case here. Now, when a sector is lost, you lose all your nodes in that sector. Also, you cannot build the same type of node within 50 meters of each other, meaning if you put one munitions node down, the other one has to be 50 meters away. So the best way to go about doing this is building sets in different spots of the map, and my best advice is now you kind of want to stagger them. Before, I wouldn't really recommend building nodes in the plus 5 unless you really had to. Now you kind of want at least one set in the plus 5, especially if there's a tug of war going on over that mid capture point. You don't want to place all your nodes in this plus 10, lose the sector, and then have them all wiped and have to go build them over again. It's better to build maybe one set in plus 5, one set in plus 10. If you're getting stuck in plus 10, build a second set in plus 10, maybe a second set in plus 5. But the point of this is if you do lose those plus 10s, you have those plus 5s to fall back onto. The key to this is you want to be constantly generating resources. You want to form almost a bank of these resources. So you want to get them up fast and you just want to get them built. And there is some good news to this. Now one engineer can build all the nodes if it is necessary. While I always love seeing multiple engineers building nodes in a game, you know that's not always going to happen. So if one player does have to build them and they're willing to do so, at least we have that. So now let's talk about the new feature, the new big change to the meta, and that is the introduction of forward garrisons. Forward garrisons can be built in the first sector of enemy territory. They do cost 100 supplies, so they're a little more expensive, and they do become disabled if an enemy comes within 100 meters of it, so you have to be careful with your placement of this. If you put it too close to an enemy point, it's practically going to be disabled the whole time. So you have to find that perfect range of close enough to enemy point where it can be effective, but also keeping it nice and covert so people can actually spawn there. So there's a few good ways to go about building these. Let's go back to what I said before about that second supply truck at the start. While you have one pushing directly on that mid capture point, you can have another going parallel with it. That way, if you don't capture the midpoint, you'll have a truck ready and available to build those forward garrisons, drop 2 supplies. You can get 2 up right out of that truck. And if you do capture that middle point, it gets even better. You can keep on driving that truck into the next enemy sector and quickly get 2 forward garrisons up. And you can end up surrounding the enemy very, very fast and effectively. And there are a couple ways to make this even spicier. In the truck that you're building these forward garrisons with, if you have another support player coming with you and you do capture that middle point, you can get a garrison down in that cap once it turns if it's your sector with the support character's supplies. So you can have a fallback garrison and 2 flanking garrisons built out of one truck with 2 people in it with a squad leader and the support player. And you don't necessarily have to depend on the truck for this. This is kind of a way if you want to do it yourself. You can also use the commander role very effectively to help with these forward garrisons. The commander can use their airdropping of supplies all over the map. So a solo squad leader can be very effective if they're sneaky behind enemy lines and they get the commander to drop supplies on them. This also means every time there's an airhead, usually the commander should be dropping supplies with that airhead. And if a squad leader spawns on that airhead and builds a garrison on it, you now have a permanent airhead. And another thing to note with these flanking forward garrisons is obviously you want to place them around points you're capping, but you can also get a head start on capping the next point as well. If the enemy's next point is, you know, say on the top of the map while the point you're currently capping is on the bottom, you can build a forward garrison right up on the line at the top of the map. So when you cap and it flips, you already have a garrison good and ready to go. These forward garrisons allow you to build a lot of momentum and attack very effectively. So there are a couple things you want to keep in mind as you're looking at this meta, looking at this gameplay, and you know, this is going to be something you're going to see a lot more of as this game goes forward with update 9 unless something drastically changes. If you're building multiple flanking and forward garrisons, you kind of need to look at it as an airhead. In the past, whenever you've seen an airhead deployed, the whole team tends to jump on it. They ignore defending. When you give them 2 spawns that are capable of doing this, you know, you got to be cautious. You got to use communication. You got to make sure the whole team doesn't abandon the point you're defending, because the enemy team could be doing something similar to you with these tactics. And honestly, when you're thinking about these airheads, you need to be thinking about airheads landing behind your own points as you're defending. So it's best to get in the habit of every time you hear a plane going over your head, figure out what that plane is doing. If it's friendly, if it's enemy, what's being dropped on the map. I guarantee you, once you start doing this, you're going to start spotting a lot of airheads that your team is going to miss that you might have to call out. So now with all these multiple areas of attack, defending your point becomes so much more crucial, which Hell Loose has already had a problem in the past. Players do not like to defend in this game, and right now in this current update and meta, it is more important than ever. The game is no longer a steady stream of players coming from one direction, so now you have enemy players coming from 2 to 3 directions, as well as any outposts that may have been placed around your point as well. So you don't want to give your teammates too much opportunity to abandon the point and attack. But this is really it. This is what we're looking at going forward here. Now I'm curious to see how this changes, see how this evolves, but I'm pretty confident we're only going to see more and more of this throughout the game as update 9 keeps rolling on. So obviously these are good tactics to use on your own, but they're also tactics you're going to have to watch out for. And hopefully this helps with that. Defend your points, build those garrisons, build those nodes. If you found this video informative, please give it a like. If you want to hang out, see some more Hell Let Loose, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll gladly reply. But thank you for watching. Thank you for everything you do. I'll see you dudes on the front line.